We need to discuss why amenorrhea isn't normal for athletes, meaning that we need to debunk the myth that losing your period is a sign of being a serious athlete. You're just doing so good. It's normal for you not to have your menstrual cycle, but guess what? You're the best athlete. You're so great at what you're doing. You're getting paid so much money. Everybody has eyes on you. And at the end of the day, all menstruators need their menstrual cycle.
They been cramping my style all week. Craving chocolate trees, checking pants, checking seeds, sipping herbal tea, and fight for menstrual equity. Sheesh, man, I kick Cramp's ass. 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 You're now tuned in to the Kick Cramp's Ass podcast with your host, Brittany Walker, advocating for menstrual equity, period poverty, and womb wellness. New episodes on Menstruation Mondays.
Happy Menstruation Monday, and welcome to the Kick Cramp's Ass podcast, where I'm your host, Brittany Walker. In this episode, we're going to be talking about athletes and their periods. Why? Because today is WNBA Draft Day. For those of you who do not know what that is the Women's National Basketball Association here in the United States. For those of you who are our global listeners, if you paid attention to the Summer Olympics this past summer, where Team USA women's basketball took home the gold, all of those players came from different WNBA teams. All right, guys. So for all the women athletes, for all the sports fans, this episode is strictly for you. And those of you who are interested in learning what women athletes go through is very imperative. So the menstrual cycle, and it's often overlooked on the impact of women athletes. And also amenorrhea is truly prevalent within these athletes, meaning the absence of their actual menstrual cycle. All right, guys. So there are so many other reproductive issues that may impact these athletes, and we just want to get into that today. All right. So we always like to kick off each episode with the I am power statement. I representing inspiration, A representing affirmation, and M representing manifestation. And the I am power statement for today is I am focusing on building a sustainable and healthy athletic journey with a more manageable menstrual cycle. Ashe. And now we also like to give the quote of the day. And today's is, the menstrual cycle is, in the words of Alexandra Pope, our inner guidance system, initiating us into and anointing us with an ever deepening revelation and wisdom. And that's by Lucy H. Pierce. In other words, the menstrual cycle is powerful. It is a very important process for women or menstruators, for those who don't identify as a woman. All right, guys. So let me go ahead and take a sip of this good old Cramp Elixir tea. We're going to cut to a commercial break and we'll be right back with you. Have you tried our bestseller, the Cramp Elixir? It's our herbal tea blend designed to reduce and eliminate menstrual cramps, PMS symptoms, and other uterine health issues that are hindering your day-to-day progress. Our elixir may decrease inflammation, reduce stress and anxiety, regulate blood flow, balance your mood, and it can kick cramp's ass. It includes a variety of herbs including hibiscus, red raspberry leaf, calendula, motherwort, ashwagandha, plus more. Head over to kickcrampsass.org and grab yours today. Now, back to the show. Welcome back from that commercial break. We hope that you enjoyed it. The athlete's body has unique demands. The first is high energy expenditure, meaning you're putting out so much energy from your body from the endurance that you're doing, whether that's during training, while you're actually playing the sport that you're in, and also low body fat percentages are required in some sports. So if you're a track star, If you're doing swimming, there's certain gymnastics, there are going to be certain sports that requires your body fat percentage to be super low, in which we need a significant amount of healthy fat in the body to have a regulated menstrual cycle. And then the third high unique demand is physical stress and training intensity. So the stress of being a professional athlete, even if you're not a professional athlete, let's say you're in high school, just the pressure of wanting to win the championship for this season, or maybe for the district or the division that you're in. If you're the star athlete, the pressure that that puts on your body. If you're an athlete that wants to play, but maybe you're on the bench more, that can be added stress as well. And then the actual training intensity, meaning while you're practicing, while you're preparing to play the next game, or doing your training in the off season, it may require high intensity. All right, guys. So we definitely want to talk about how these demands can disrupt the delicate hormonal balance of the menstrual cycle. So first is going to be low energy availability, which is LEA. Now, this is the primary driver of menstrual disturbances in athletes. So LEA occurs when an athlete's energy intake from their food is insufficient to meet the energy demands of both training and essential bodily functions. So that can mean instead of you eating after each workout, you're putting nutrients back into your body to provide the body more energy to keep going. You're not putting any fuel in your body whatsoever. Just drinking water or Gatorade is not going to cut it. Well, we're already going to say no to Gatorade and things of that sort with sports drinks because they have the red 40 dyes, the blue dyes, the yellow dyes, a lot of added sugar that is not good for the body, even though it's supposed to provide electrolytes. We just say go to the fruits and the foods and the items that actually give you natural electrolytes. All right, guys. But again, if you're doing all this high endurance throughout the day and you're not putting enough food in the body, this is going to cause your body to crash, is going to cause your body to not have a regulation in your hormones. So let's talk about how this disrupts your actual hormones. Now, the body senses this energy deficit and it prioritizes survival functions over reproduction, meaning that what your body needs to do to survive on a day to day, the energy it needs to wake up, to even chew your food, to walk, to maneuver, to have brain function is going to supersede your reproduction. And this is where that hormonal imbalance comes into play. Now, how does that impact your cycle? This gives you lower levels of LH, which is your luteinizing hormone, and also your FSH, which is your follicle stimulating hormone. And it disrupts the ovulation process, which is the typically days 12 through 14, which is 1 to 2, maybe even 3 days of ovulation is when the release of the egg is going through the process of the menstrual cycle. All right. And now the subsequent production of estrogen and progesterone by the ovaries leading to irregular cycles. So that could be oligomenorrhea, which means that you have irregular cycles here and there. Maybe one day, I'm sorry, 1 month, you might have a cycle for 3 or 4 days. And then the next month, you might not have a cycle. And then the month after that, you might have a regular cycle. And then the month after that, it might be irregular. Okay. So that's oligomenorrhea. But you could also have the complete absence of the menstrual cycle, which is amenorrhea, which we discussed earlier. All right, guys. Now, this then causes the body to have stress responses. All right. So, intense training, competition, the pressure to perform can trigger the body's stress response. Let me give you a perfect example. I don't talk about the sports that I played, but I have played a array of different sports over time: volleyball, basketball, track, cheerleading, boxing. When I was a cheerleader, I actually won an NCAA cheerleading championship title my senior year of high school. All of my cheerleading sisters were stressed. We wanted to win. It was a lot going on. And I remember a lot of us were in sync with our cycles. Typically, once one of us started our cycle, within 2 to 3 days, the rest of us started, and everybody's cycles were off. We were all stressed out, just trying to make sure our moves were perfect, the routine stuck. Everything was perfect. That's what we were focused on. And then competing with all of these other teams that were just as great, it can bring a lot of stress onto the body, and therefore your body can then have a negative reaction with the cycle. Now let's talk about how the stress response disrupts the hormones. Chronic stress leads to elevated levels of cortisol, a stress hormone, thus impacting the menstrual cycle hormones. So we want to be able to regulate those hormones levels, all right, guys? Next, we have changes in your body composition. So some sports emphasizes the leanness that's needed, and athletes may strive for very low body fat percentages. Now, how does that disrupt the cycle? Fat tissues play a role in hormone production and regulation, including the conversion of androgens to estrogen. What this means is severely low body fat can disrupt this process and lead to lower estrogen levels, impacting the menstrual cycle. However, it is important to note that it's the energy deficit that is the primary driver, not just the low body fat itself. So we talked about energy earlier, and how do you get energy? By adequate food items that you're putting into your body. So your food, your beverages, your herbs, the things that you are consuming has to be nutrient dense and be able to supply the adequate energy that the body needs. We have discussed with you guys before about complex carbohydrates. That is the primary food source that the body goes to pull energy. If you're not adding complex carbohydrates to the body, your body then is going to start pulling from your fats and the proteins, and we need those other macronutrients for other functions within the body. If we're exuding those macronutrients for energy, then other parts of your body will potentially start malfunctioning. This is why we do not promote the keto diet. The keto diet requires for you to completely eliminate carbohydrates from your body. And all those simple carbohydrates, which are the carbohydrates high in sugar and are hard to break down in the body, that turns into like plaque and glue and hard visceral subcutaneous fats within the stomach, that hard belly fat that's hard to get rid of. That's where the simple carbs come from, not the complex carbs. Complex carbs is what the body needs. So if you're on a keto diet, 10 to 20 years from now, you might start having memory issues or bodily malfunctions because your body no longer has that complex carbohydrate that it requires. All right, guys. So then athletes with low body fat but adequate energy intake may still have regular cycles. All right. So let's talk about the metabolic adaptations. Now, the body adapts to chronic energy restriction by down-regulating metabolic rate to conserve energy. And what this means for hormones, it disrupts it because the metabolic shift can affect the production and regulation of various hormones, including those involved in the menstrual cycle. So hormones like leptin, which signals energy availability to the brain, can be reduced, which is something that we do not want to reduce. We'll talk about leptin a little more later. So then let's roll into nutritional deficiencies. So inadequate intake of essential nutrients, even with sufficient overall calorie intake, can still disrupt your hormonal balance. Therefore, if you're not adding in plant proteins, complex carbohydrates, leafy greens, seeded fruits, nuts, seeds, herbs, things that we talk about all the time, is going to be critical, guys. So the importance of adequate calorie intake, macronutrients, like we just stated, and then also micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals. We need a lot of calcium, vitamin D, and iron. Calcium you can get from seeded fruits, citrus fruits like orange, grapefruit. We want key limes, lemons. All right, guys. And then various berries. So raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, vitamin D. Everybody thinks you have to get vitamin D from milk and from fortified foods like oatmeal, cereal, things of that sort. But again, that's a synthetic form of vitamin D. The best way that you can get natural vitamin D is to spend time in the sun. You will hear all these studies said, don't go out in the sun, don't go out in the sun. And yes, the sun can be harmful, especially at the peak heat of the day. But first thing in the morning or in the evening after the sun is starting to set, getting adequate vitamin D directly on your skin. So you're having your face out, your arms, your legs for 20 to 30 minutes is sufficient. If you have darker melanated skin, you might need to be in the sun a little longer, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. But allowing your body to absorb natural vitamin D is going to be the best option. And then also iron. We talked about in our book how iron is the world's leading deficiency, and we can't understand why. If iron is in all meats, which are considered the best proteins to have according to Western medical technologies and research, then how is it that we are iron deficient? All right. And of course, with your menstrual cycle, with the loss of blood, you're losing a lot of iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium. So we want to be able to make sure that those micronutrients, aka minerals and vitamins, are being replenished within the body. All right, guys. So iron, leafy greens is going to be the best thing to go to. You have legumes. So if you want to do beans, chickpeas, mushrooms, and mushrooms like oyster mushrooms, lion's mane, things of that sort. A mushroom like baby Bella is not going to give you a significant amount of iron in it. All right, guys. So we also want to talk about the female athlete triad. All right, guys, it's something that we want to avoid as an athlete, and also because of the relative energy deficiency in sport, which is red/S. All right, guys. So what that means is the female athlete triad, the three things we want to avoid: the LEA, the low energy availability we were just talking about. All right, guys. We also want to avoid menstrual dysfunction. So we talked about oligomenorrhea, which is not having regular cycles, which is irregular menstrual cycles, or amenorrhea, which is the absence of menstrual cycles. And then also low bone mineral density, so osteoporosis or osteopenia. So those three are considered the female athlete triad. All right, guys, we want to avoid these three things as athletes, all right, because they disrupt the hormones as well. Deficiencies in certain vitamins and minerals are crucial for hormone synthesis, and regulation can impair the normal functioning of the menstrual cycle. So, beyond estrogen and progesterone, the other hormone disruptions are leptin, which we mentioned earlier, and that is a very critical hormone because it plays the role in regulating your appetite and the reproductive system. So, if your leptin is low, your cycle is going to be thrown off because it's now affecting the reproduction system, and other issues in the body can happen because of your appetite not being regulated. If your appetite's not there, it's not going to want you, your body's not going to want to eat. You're not going to want to feel the need to refuel your body for energy, which is not a good thing as an athlete, because you need to be having a sufficient amount of nutrients coming into your body, a very high nutrient dense diet. All right, guys. Also, cortisol, we mentioned that earlier as well. It is our stress hormone and its potential impact on hormonal imbalance. All right, guys. Want to be mindful of that. We want to regulate the stress levels within the body. And another hormone that could be affected is your thyroid. You don't want your thyroid functions to be thrown off. All right, guys. So, in other words, eat plenty of nutrient dense foods to accommodate the energy used for hormonal regulation within a menstruator's body, and then also eliminating as much stress as possible. If you've listened to a previous episode, you have heard us say this more than one time. Eliminate anything that does not add any value to your life. This is people, places, or things. All right, guys. So we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with you. Tired of clunky remote recordings? Level up with Riverside FM Pro. Get studio quality audio and video, effortless editing with powerful AI tools, and seamless live streaming and collaboration. Become a pro of Riverside.fm and unlock the full potential of your content. Sign up today and make your voice heard. Visit the link in the description of this episode to discover more. Now, back to the show. Welcome back from that commercial break. We hope that you enjoyed it. So, to continue on about our athletes, as I have some notable athletes that you guys are aware of, we have Juju Watkins from USC. Shout out to NCAA women's basketball. And we also have one of our favorite players, Jackie Young from the Las Vegas Aces. And in honor of the Las Vegas Aces, with one of our other favorite athletes, A'ja Wilson, we're representing our white tee in our A'ja Wilson mode. Shout out to all the athletes out here doing the thing. with their careers and making so many moves in women's sports. Being an individual from Houston, Texas, I was very young when the WNBA came out. So, being that the Houston Comets won their first four championship titles is history for me and for women's sports. And just being having the opportunity to meet some of those players was very pivotal, and it just made me want to pour into athletes and their menstrual cycle. So this is another reason why we are heavy on athletes today. All right, guys. So let's get back to the show. Let's pick up with what is amenorrhea? We've talked about amenorrhea before in the past. We actually wrote a recent article in KCA, the magazine, about amenorrhea, and we're going to drop the link to that article in this episode so you could check it out and learn more. But defining amenorrhea, there are two types. We have primary and secondary. Primary amenorrhea means that you never had a period before by a specific age, and that's typically by age 15. And then you have secondary amenorrhea, which is cessation of periods after they have started. So that means once you've already proactively had a menstrual cycle, and once your menstrual cycle stops coming, then you will be considered as having secondary amenorrhea. We just want to discuss the prevalence in amenorrhea within athletes because there's just a higher incidence of amenorrhea in certain sports, more specifically in high endurance sports, aesthetic sports. So aesthetic would be gymnastics. We need to discuss why amenorrhea isn't normal for athletes, meaning that we need to debunk the myth that losing your period is a sign of being a serious athlete. You're just doing so good. It's normal for you not to have your menstrual cycle, but guess what? You're the best athlete. You're so great at what you're doing. You're getting paid so much money. Everybody has eyes on you. And at the end of the day, all menstruators need their menstrual cycle. If your body is not having a menstrual cycle, that is actually causing more harm to your body than good. So we want to debunk the idea that amenorrhea is normal for athletes and that it's something that should happen more frequently. Now, we also want to talk about the energy availability equation. So that is when the LEA, again, the low energy availability, can trigger hormonal imbalances, as we mentioned earlier. So there's an actual term for this, guy. So it can't be that amenorrhea should be normal. It cannot be that athletes should just be okay without having a menstrual cycle or irregular menstrual cycles. No, this is not okay. This is something that we have to destigmatize and make better for those who are sacrificing their bodies for their careers, and then also for the entertainment of the individuals that are fans watching these sports. All right, guys. Now, other contributing factors to amenorrhea is alcohol. So if you're having an excessive amount of alcohol consumption, that can lead to amenorrhea. Consuming processed and sugary foods. So if you're not putting that much food into your body to help keep your hormones regulated, and the food that you do put into your body is all processed, sugary, fast foods, fried foods, things that are out of packages, then that's not going to be the best if that's the only type of food that your body is getting, and also not the best type of food to fuel your energy or build your muscle or build your endurance for your specialty. We want to make sure that your competencies and skills and abilities are getting better and not being harmed or hindered because of the lack of energy or nutritional deficiencies that your body could potentially be experiencing. All right, guys, we also want to limit caffeine. Caffeine is a huge contributor to amenorrhea. Too much caffeine in the body can disrupt your hormones, and it can also disrupt your cycle as well. Caffeine also adds inflammation, bloating, heavy bleeding when your cycle is present. It can also disrupt your mood. Again, messing with your hormones, causing mood swings, PMS, and other symptoms that you might not want. All right, guys. Stress is a huge contributing factor. We talked about it earlier, but again, just regulating stress, making sure you're engaging in things that you love to help you relieve the stress and the pressures of being that athlete. Psychological factors can come into play, so previous mental health issues, if you're struggling with things at home, and it can also be genetic. So maybe saying conditioning, maybe one of your parents might have been diagnosed with something, especially the menstruators in your family, if they have a history of uterine health issues, fibroids, endometriosis, amenorrhea, then those are things to consider as well. Let's get into some stats. I always like to tell you guys about stats that we have going on so that you can understand how serious these menstrual health issues are prevalent within our world. All right, guys, just not in the United States, but globally. Michelle Bourne advised the prevalence of exercise induced amenorrhea in athletes range from 5 to 25%, but can be higher depending on the sport and level of competition. This is significantly higher than the 3 to 4% prevalence of secondary amenorrhea in the general population. Now, Rachel Chamberlain discovered among adolescent female athletes, 19 to 54% may experience menstrual irregularities, including amenorrhea. So we're not even talking about college, professional, we're talking strictly elementary, middle school, and then coming into high school. All right, guys? So we also have Marta Gumanova and her research team. They recognize that sports like cycling up to 56% for secondary amenorrhea. A triathlon athlete, around 40% have amenorrhea. And long distance running up to 17% has secondary amenorrhea, often showing higher rates than other athletes. Now, sports also emphasizes leanness, such as arithmetic gymnastics. So up to 25% of those have primary amenorrhea, and 31% of gymnasts have secondary amenorrhea. Artistic gymnastics, around 24% for primary amenorrhea, and then 24% for secondary amenorrhea. And then also ballet has also reported elevated prevalence of amenorrhea. All right, guys, so that breaks down how we were talking about endurance sports. So that was the cycling, the triathlon, and running. We mentioned endurance sports earlier. Then we also talked about aesthetic sports. So that's more of the gymnast, ballet. And as you notice with gymnasts, it's prevalence in both the primary and secondary, meaning when you're starting off as a kid and getting trained, you're already training and conditioning the body for primary amenorrhea. Then once you actually get your cycle, you still may suffer from amenorrhea through the secondary levels of it. All right, guys? Now, Marta and her team also realized that studies also have indicated notable rates in sports like boxing, up to 55% for oligomenorrhea, and soccer, up to 20% for primary amenorrhea, and swimming, up to 19% for primary amenorrhea, and around 9% for secondary amenorrhea. So we have gone through a variety of different sports, and anybody that's a menstruator could be one of these percentages. All right, guys? Now, an additional stat is A.B. Locks found that the stress of competition and training can impact the hormonal balance, while Chu Hung Chin and their team declared that amenorrhea due to low estrogen levels can lead to osteopenia and osteoporosis, increasing the risk of stress fractures. It is estimated that for every year without a menstrual cycle, athletes can lose over 2% of their bone density, which may be irreversible. Guys, this is a bigger issue if it's not taken care of in regards to amenorrhea. It can start affecting other areas in the body. So let's talk about those other health risks associated with amenorrhea. Fertility. Now, April happens to be National Infertility Month. So be mindful that if you have an absent period and you're trying to conceive, it may be difficult to conceive if the cycle has not been regulated. All right, guys? Now, bone health, we talked about osteoporosis and osteopenia, and that having amenorrhea increases the risk of stress fractures, as we just mentioned, and osteoporosis due to low estrogen levels. So we don't want to cause any back issues or anything to our bones in general, because that can have long-term effects on our bodies and how we age. Amenorrhea can also have cardiovascular health issues, meaning heart problems. Heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in the United States currently. However, heart disease is also closely related to the nutrients that you're putting in your body. Your diet has a lot to do with heart disease, so that's something that can be prevented if we control the nutritional deficiencies that your body may be experiencing. And then lastly, psychological impact. It can affect your mental health. We talked about the cortisol hormone, that stress hormone being affected. We talked about it, the stress that your body is taking from the impact of being an athlete. So we want to be mindful of those things. Now, when it comes to empowering our menstruating athletes, we want you to take back control of your health. And you can do so by listening to your body, encouraging athletes to be aware of the menstrual cycle and any changes. Just because your menstrual cycle is not coming, we don't want you to normalize, like, hey, my cycle didn't come this month, or hey, my cramps are really bad this month, just give me some painkillers and I'll be okay. Hey, I'm bleeding really, really heavy and I'm super, super moody, but y'all know that's just how it is. None of that should be normalized. We can regulate all of that. So listening to your body and paying attention to what your body is doing is very important. And even if you normalize a negative behavior, it's about recognizing what those traits and behaviors are and acknowledging them when they do arise. Additionally, we want you to have open communication. Foster open conversations with your coaches, your family, and your loved ones, and healthcare providers, explaining what your body is experiencing and what you are feeling. If you do not like what any of these individuals give you as far as advice or information, then seek another health professional. Seek somebody that is privy to the menstrual cycle, menstrual health, reproductive health, and athletes. All right, guys. Next, we want you to prioritize your nutrition and your recovery. We need to emphasize the importance of having balanced nutrition and also adequate rest. You can't go, 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 and then not put any food in your body. We talked about the energy expenditure earlier. We need enough energy being put into the body from your food, and we need enough rest for your body to recover in order to match the endurance that your body is giving. All right, guys? We also need you to manage your stress. Talk about your healthy coping mechanisms for training and life stress. You need to determine what that looks like for you. If once you come home from a extreme practice, then you need to know what is going to help you decompress, whether that's taking a soak, whether that's reading a book, whether that's relaxing in a hot tub, whether that's going in a sauna, whether that is just taking a really hot shower and eating something really, really good and nutritious, and then making sure you go to sleep for 8 to 9 hours. Just figure out what ways helps you eliminate stress and incorporate that into your daily life. You also need to do regular checkups. We recommend doing routine medical evaluations with your health professionals, whether that's the trainer you have at the facility that you're practicing at, whether that is a coach, whether that's a nurse, whether you have a chiropractor, whether you have a nutritionist or a dietitian. You need to be having these conversations and having these checkups with these individuals regularly to ensure that your body is performing in the way that it needs to, and your body is receiving everything that it needs to in order for you to be the best athlete that you desire to be. All right. And then lastly, resources and support. You need to locate your support and your resources. So, sports medicine organizations, women health websites. If you're on social media, maybe finding organizations that cater to women's sports, maybe finding a nutritionist or influencer that focuses on healthy and holistic approaches to being an athlete. You need to take time and pour into yourself and invest in yourself. So just finding the right resources, organizations, even talking to your trainers and your coaches, they might be privy to organizations or individuals that can assist you along in this journey. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with you. Periods got you down? Kick cramps to the curb with Pilates for periods. Our online program combines targeted Pilates, soothing yoga, calming meditation, and breath work to help you manage your menstrual cycle naturally. Feel stronger, calmer, and more in control. Reclaim your comfort. Visit Pilates for Periods YouTube page linked in the description of this episode and start your journey to a more manageable cycle today. Now, back to the show. Welcome back from that commercial break. We hope that you enjoyed it. All right, guys, so we're going to talk about options to help you improve your wellness that we have available for athletes. We have our resource center on our website. We have recipes, blogs, research articles, exercise moves, yoga moves, womb terminology, wellness referrals, just so many resources to help you cater to your amenorrhea or just your menstrual health in general. We have our Pilates for Periods, which is our fitness and mindfulness program offering yoga, Pilates, breathwork, and meditation practices. We have KCA the magazine. Again, that link will be in the description with the amenorrhea article, but we have other articles as well that could be very beneficial throughout your menstrual health journey. And then sign up for our newsletter on our website. Not only will you get a 15% off coupon once you sign up to our KCA store, but you get to have the option to keep up with the latest news, events, and resources that we send out through our weekly newsletter. All right, guys, we are still accepting listeners' mail, so feel free to comment to this episode, or you can contact us if you want a more intimate setting at contact@kickcrampsass.org, which will be listed in the description of this episode. But we would like to recap today as we discussed athletes and their cycles, how you can prevent amenorrhea, avoiding the female athlete triad and the relative energy deficiency in sport. And we just want to amplify women's sports and make a more manageable menstrual cycle journey for you so that you can enjoy your skills, your career, and then also have life longevity and enjoy your career and not let it be something that is hindered because of your menstrual cycle. All right, guys, be sure to like this podcast. If you're watching the video, you got to see all the great resources that we offer on our YouTube channel and Spotify, Amazon Music, and on Apple's podcast. And then you also can listen to the audio version. All right, guys, subscribing to our website, as we mentioned earlier, will keep you up with the latest news, events, and resources. And signing up to our YouTube channels, both Kick Cramps Ass and Pilates for Periods, will also give you additional resources. All right. So we want to send gratitude out to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And we want to manifest a positive, productive, and peaceful remainder of the day and a menstrual journey ahead. And we look forward to speaking with you on next Menstruation Monday. Peace.